Story number one: is America headed in the right direction? With all the talk about debt, political debates, the finances, America's college students, people want to know, are we headed in the right direction with the political candidates, the president's behavior, all types of bias and all types of talk? That's the number one question. That's why this story surfaced in. It has all the style and all of the potential to grow, especially when you have the speaker, Nancy Pelosi, talking about pretty much regulating a sitting president. She was asked some questions about indicting President Trump, and she had some pretty harsh words about the president's behavior and how the founding fathers would have viewed this president. She's also been under attack for some of her stance on prescription drugs. Everybody's going for the cheaper cost, but nobody knows if that's actually the accurate way to approach the healthcare debate. But when you look at Pelosi's stance on this, it really has a lot of people wondering, especially when you look at the relationship in Congress between the right and the left, Democrats, Republicans, liberals, and conservatives. It has people wondering, are we headed in the right direction? And if we are we headed for a dead end? There was also some reports that surfaced in about how the Chinese could be spying on people's LinkedIn accounts. I don't know. There's been a lot of stories surfacing about tech stories, but this one was unique because a lot of people, a lot of professionals have LinkedIn accounts, and if the Chinese are that desperate for trade secrets and to imitate the American culture or any culture there be, then social media, it would definitely be a place to spy on. So there's been some red flags. There was another other story surfacing about Edward Snowden. I don't know if we remember the NSA. I believe he was working for the NSA, and he took some valuable information, and he was seeking asylum and he went over to Moscow. And some people were concerned about his dealings with Russia. They were concerned about if he was basically sharing any type of classified information. He says he hasn't and will never cooperate with Russia, but there's still a lot of mystery surrounding this topic, especially when we've seen the behavior and the way the moves that the Russian government has been making. So you see this story, especially when you ask where we're headed as a country. You see stories like this surface, and it kind of tickles your thinking pattern a little bit to wonder if we're headed in the right direction. Suspect charged after being stabbed to death, as some in the crowd filmed. Even when you look at things like this, now this was a teen that was stabbed. Even when you look at the behavior of America's youth now, a lot of people are concerned when you look at the violence, the guns, the massacres. So it has people wondering if we're headed in the right direction, and that's why this story crept its way into the top 8, because when you look at all of the things that have happened in the past, with all of the breakthroughs, all of the medical advancements, even when you look at stories like Snowden and how he was labeled a hero, then all of a sudden he's labeled a villain, and now he's being sued. You look at these stories and you kind of wonder, are we headed in the right direction? Are we setting the example for even for the youth? When you look at the protests, the way they view gun laws, and how some people are saying that America's youth need to toughen up in some situations. You look at, are we kind of becoming a little bit more of a softer generation? These stories are starting to surface, and it has people wondering. You'll see a lot of that in the stories that made it into the top 8 this week. North America bird population has dropped by 3 billion since 1970, according to a study. Even when you look at how our animals here in America, the pollution, and people talking about how pollution is affecting our behavior, our health, things like that. You look at just how the industries of fracking, and it has people wondering ethically and how where we're headed. The drug trade, the drug wars, the border, the fashions that we've created with our neighbor, the fashions of relationship, if that's the word I'm looking for, the styles of relationships that we now have, how people now are viewing the American culture differently in other countries. So it has people, and that's why this story has the inkling and the twinkling of the potential that it needs to get bigger, and to not only be developing but be a prime topic of discussion. Because of, you look at our leadership style now, it's very aggressive. The amount of what you would say ignorance, the amount of lack of respect for authorities. So you see this story definitely has a lot of potential. Immigration court backlog exceeds 1 million cases according to a data group. So you see stories like this, and even with climate change, how they say that climate change is already killing Americans and costing billions in medical bills. So stories like this keep surfacing, and it really has people concerned about the future of this country, and where just are we headed for a brick wall? Bill Gates said that it should be okay to tax the wealthy, according to one report. So even in that stance, when you look at how they're talking about taxing the rich, where will the money come from when you have such strict laws that are now against free labor, and you have a country that is now practicing better labor practices? When you have some businesses that go overseas to get that cheap labor, and they can't get it in this country. So it has people concerned about, well, how will these businesses be able to make a profit when America will not allow that type of labor here? So you see these stories definitely having an impact, and definitely story number one is really has a lot of potential. Fed lowers rates again to stave off recession, leaves door open for another cut this year. So even when it comes to the Fed, they're trying to, even recession talks, and how there's just mixed feelings about this economy. A lot of different views. It's really hard to figure out what is actually happening in this economy with so many different views. A crack emerges, even with this story like this, a crack emerges in the financial markets. They say that New York Fed spent $53 billion to rescue the overnight lending market. So you see stories like this, wondering, has you worried about the economy, the future of America, and it leads the question of where we're headed. Even when you look at the homeless crisis, how President Trump has slammed LA and San Francisco, and basically waged some type of war with California by putting their style of governing and their leadership practices on the radar, by looking at how they treat how they're treating their homeless crisis. So you see story number one. Is America headed in the right direction? This story definitely has a lot of potential to grow. It definitely has the substance that it needs. It has the ability to create conversation, and it has the ability to not only give the reporters the analysis that they need to get results, but they can also clarify it with data. So story number one definitely has potential, and it definitely is developing. It could be developed into a bigger story. You're the Mediator with me, Brian West, where it's my supreme duty every week to give you the top 8 headlines developing news stories. If you want to be a contributor or check out the stories that almost made it into the Mediator this week, check out the stories that did make it in, all you have to do is visit www.method8inc.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Constantly reminding you, the viewer, the audience, that I'm just a mediator. The journalists, the people on the front lines, and the news outlets deserve all the credit. I just navigate the news for you, keeping you up to date and informed with the stories that may impact you in your daily walk. So if you want to be a contributor, help out anyway, doesn't take much. I don't ask for much. METHOD, the number 8, INC.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, read something, click on something, watch something, or just sponsor a program. Every little bit counts.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.